Everybody's ready? Okay. Hello, my name is Socha. I'm a TVE student, and as you know, Thinking Beyond Borders is a program that takes students traveling around to different countries and studying global issues and development. I came on this trip to learn about other cultures and found myself learning more about my own culture and myself. American society values individual confidence highly. I have been encouraged to have confidence in myself to show strength. That has sometimes led me to believe that I know the answer, and am strongest in my individuality. I have often seen these beliefs in other Americans, and I believe they are dangerous, especially when working with other cultures. Throughout my travels, I found a new passion in drawing, and often process my thoughts through sketches. A few of these will be showing as I talk. I also found a comfort in writing, and kept a blog and journal. While reading an old journal, I stumbled upon a poem that I'd like to share with you now. First, let's start with a little girl. Tell her that she can have the whole world for her clever mind, the whole world, as long as she's kind. Let's shape her up in secondhand clothes, reduce, reuse, recycle until it gets old. Then throw it out, buy a new pair, the cool ones that will keep you up there with the trendy kids rocking Lululemon and fresh kicks. Preach to her precious mind to prevent from the approaching blind. Skin color doesn't matter, stick to what you know. Money doesn't matter, stay on track to grow. Save energy, travel the world. Start small, save this earth. Look around, see your peers, wide-eyed after all these years of second-guessing. What is right and what is destined? Monsters of the world await, dangling opportunity at their gate. Taj Mahal, Safari, Angkor Wat. Don't tell her it means Jack Squat. For what is it to mean? What is it to be? What is it to change? What is it to see? Quiet now, don't think too loud, before you have questioned every last shroud of evidence given to you by those you wish to lead askew. Pre-TVB, I had already been taught to question if people will actually use fair change to buy food, or if they're using drugs. To question if my friends are true friends, or faking it. To question if that boy is talking to me because he likes my personality, or the tight shirt I'm wearing. To question conservative views, to question religious views. I was taught to question the things the institutions I was a part of wanted me to question. I have no memory of being told to question myself or to question trusted sources. I've been brought up by being taught by teachers and mentors to be sure of myself. Trust your gut, be confident. In our culture, confidence is sexy. It's something to strive for. Being unsure of yourself is not. For example, writing a proposal for a grant. You want to show that I'm the one. I know what I'm doing, and this is the right way. People love that person, the one who is sure of themselves, saying, this might work. We're going to give it a try, see what happens, and alter as we go along. Shows insecurity in your idea. You can guess who's going to get the grant. When I was part of group work in school, I usually became the leader within the first few minutes. I love to have my say, and once I have an idea, I like to have it done my way. If the other students are okay with my idea, it's pretty easy to micromanage the whole project. Teachers told me I was a good leader. Although I did get a lot less controlling, as I realized it didn't make me too many friends, I still find myself trying to constantly hit projects in the direction I have in mind. I often block myself off to other people's perspectives. And don't question my own. In seminars, I was always really good at questioning others and was taught to argue my point well. When others questioned me, I immediately tried to give my best defense, because that's how you win the argument. I learned to stick to my point, persuade, and debate. My education strengthened the sureness of self that I have grown to have. When reading about Americans giving foreign aid, I often noticed the same sureness of self resembled in their personalities. This characteristic of overconfidence often led to a poor impact. One example is from the novel Savages by Joe Kane. I read this book before our environmental unit and loved the way the author went into the Waorani tribe without preconceptions to try to show their perspective. Rachel Saint was one of the first missionaries in the Amazon, and she came to educate the Waorani. Rachel teaches the Waorani to farm crops and raise barnyard animals for food because, as she is quoted saying, nomadism was evil. The Waorani that stopped hunting and ate in the way she taught saw their health diminish as a direct result. Because of their new intake of processed sugar that was brought to them, they suffer from diabetes. The traditional diet of the Waorani is very healthy. Rachel believed that nomadism was wrong and was not willing to question that belief. If she had been willing to question, she could have learned that the nomad's way of life was far more harmonious with the land than the settled and agricultural lifestyle that she knew. Along with many other examples I saw, this led me to believe that the understanding that we can and will be wrong is hugely important. Looking at the reading list for the program, Savages along with other readings got me very excited to learn. In school, I was taught to back up claims with evidence. We were also taught to question claims in readings that weren't backed up with evidence. This led me to the belief that if evidence was given, then it was probably a true claim. In reality, evidence can be found for most things by a quick Google search. It may not be a reliable source, and it may be solely evidence that other people share the same opinion, which in fact does not make it true. Anyway, I assumed that TVB would select readings that were trusted with solid evidence that would lead me to the right answers to international issues. I would read the readings and enter the seminars, already knowing the way things work. Then we could discuss how to move forward. I'm afraid to say these were naive thoughts. Little did I know that all of our discussions of the readings would be questioning them. Not only would we be questioning them, but the readings themselves would be in direct contradiction to others that were also provided to us. You can imagine the disappointment when I found out that I would not be provided to the answers to the world's biggest questions. I suppose I could say I was provided with one answer, that answer being that there are always more questions. I learned how questioning could change my views in the first country we traveled to, South Africa. We stayed in homestays in the white part of town and worked in townships alongside caregivers. An excerpt from my blog post shares some of my feelings from this unit. The other day, a caregiver told me he plans to try to send his daughters to school, but that if they don't want to go to school, he will send them to Johannesburg, where they will be able to make a comfortable living selling their bodies. He told me about his friend who was lucky enough to get a full college education because his mother was working as a prostitute. In another situation, if someone said they supported prostitution and that they would give it as an option to their children, I might see them in a completely different way, probably negatively. In this situation, it was different. I still respected this caregiver who gave so much time to helping people for so little. He wanted his daughters to have money for a comfortable life and a family. He explained how education wasn't really worth it, because even with an education, you earn next to nothing. This particular day had a big impact on me. If the only thing I knew about this caregiver was his views on prostitution, I might think him a horrible man. But he is a kind man, a man who loves his daughters and is doing his best to help the public health system. I would never give prostitution as an option to my children, but I am missing a vital piece of information. I have grown up in a place where many other opportunities are open. If I judge others based on beliefs that I have because of my upbringing, no matter how confident I am in those beliefs, it does not leave open the fact that they had not had the same opportunities that I have had. This taught me the importance of keeping an open mind. Instead of being offended that my view was not shared, questioning with an open mind allowed me to be interested instead of judgmental, and wondering why my caregiver held this opinion. I found out that it was because of his friend's positive experience. I had reached a place where I was no longer judging, but asking. I believe in an education, but educational opportunities are not the same everywhere. My definition of an education before TBB was different than it is now. I felt that uneducated was similar to ignorant. When I thought of education, I immediately thought of school, universities, diplomas, masters. I was confident that a lack of education was a major contributor to many global issues. My confidence in this belief was challenged in this misperception. In Thailand, I got an idea of the differences in education. We stayed with host families in a very small farming community. My host mother, Mei Leon, seemed to know all the secrets of organic farming. She lived very sustainably by eating off the land and sold her excess product on the weekends in farmers markets. She dropped out of school in 4th grade to start helping out on the farm with her parents. I would have viewed Mei Leon as uneducated according to my beliefs of what education means in American culture. I now consider Mei Leon to be educated, just in a different way than most Americans. Therefore, I believe it is important to rethink our definition of education, as if we aren't hearing people like Mei Leon, then we are missing out. Most white Americans that travel are educated in the sense that we have participated in regulated schooling for a number of years. If people don't already believe that this gives them superiority, I believe that that feeling can often come when in impoverished areas. In South Africa, I had an experience that made me realize how easy it could be for white Americans to dictate a group, even when they have no knowledge of the culture, because of the assumed power that we have. I was conducting a survey in a township alongside caregivers. The survey was a few questions about the service of the local clinic. People were often upset about the long wait and the way they were treated. The NGO we were working with was planning to use the results to get money to improve the clinics. One man spoke English really well and answered all the questions very passionately. He had dealt with many problems and gotten little help from the clinic. After the question, he asked me where I was from. I answered that I was American, to which he immediately lit up. Are you going to take these answers back to your country and solve all of the problems? This man didn't know anything about me, why I was on this trip, or my background. I was not wearing expensive clothes, and I'm clearly young. But to him, I was a white American girl, and that meant opportunity that he didn't have. I questioned why he felt this way, and I became discouraged. It was clear that he didn't think he had enough power to make a difference, even though he understood the system and the changes that needed to be made. I was brought up being told that my voice counts, and that it should be heard. From what this man said to me, it seemed like he was not taught this, that he had a right to be heard, which led him to a lack of confidence in his own voice making a difference. I had a lot of complex feelings after this experience and had trouble getting my thoughts on paper. I was upset this man felt disempowered, but at the same time, it is probably more likely that I could change the way the clinics work from the top. However, I don't feel that this is my place. But shouldn't it be if I want to help? I came up with a little story I hope helps illustrate my thoughts on paper. Imagine two reptiles. Lizard has lived in Lizardland for all his life, and Dragon is just visiting. Dragon holds great confidence and comes from an affluent place. Lizard believes Dragon has more power. So he asks him to help. Dragon tells Lizard that the way they should run things, and Lizard listens because life looks better in Dragonland. They are both reptiles, so they assume the same rules should apply. Dragon tells Lizard that all the health problems will be solved if he prescribes fire breathing 2 times a day and flying once a day to all of his patients. Lizard prescribes his patients, and the patients believe they are all doomed when they cannot blow fire and get very hurt by trying to fly. My point is that confidence in self, combined with feelings of empowerment given by members of other cultures, can lead to the misunderstanding that Americans have more knowledge of cultures other than their own, giving us power in communities that we don't know. I believe we can work together to make positive changes with other cultures, but that is something that has to come originally from the people who are directly affected by the issue. I have found great strength in community during my travels, and now see this as a more powerful force than an individual, even one with a great idea. In Ecuador, I stayed with a family that lives in a much more community and family-based way than I do, with grandparents just down the street and plots of land marked out for their children so that they can live close to home too. It was like a storybook family. My host parents had met when they were little, as they both grew up in the small community of Pikaki. They had fallen in love in high school, dated each other for 6 years, then got married. They have 3 beautiful kids who they care for immensely. Every morning when my host siblings came downstairs, they would give their mom and dad a kiss and a hug, and every weekend was family time. This family is always laughing about something with one another. My Spanish isn't fluent, so I'm not sure what. Every time I made a joke, they would sort of look at me blankly, but when I said something like, "What time is breakfast tomorrow?" they would get a huge kick out of it. Elena was my TVB roommate at the time. She wants to get married but doesn't want to have kids, which was their favorite joke. The community has meetings every month to check in on how things are going, and the foundation we work with plants trees by their houses to help the growth of the whole area. I found so much happiness in this village. Everyone we passed said hello and knew one another. They helped each other out on the farms and shared tips. The community feel and the relationships is what makes these people happy and confident in themselves as a group. My host parents were so proud to be a part of Pikaki. This sense of security within a group is often what brings people happiness and strength. When searching for times that impacted me emotionally on this trip, I thought about the few times that I have cried. Once when I got a package from home, once when I received notes from family and friends on Christmas Day, and once while watching the scene in Finding Nemo when Nemo reunites with his dad. Clearly, the loving relationships in my life are incredibly important to me, as they are to most people. Yet, interpersonal relationships are not often something we concentrate on in the United States. Teachers are hired on academic achievements, not necessarily the way they interact with students. A lot of jobs don't require daily face-to-face interactions, but instead computer screens. Teens are pressured to stay out late with their friends, so they end up missing out on a lot of family time. We chase fortune and fame, often overlooking everyday enjoyment. We concentrate on confidence in self versus confidence in a group of people. TVB taught me to question myself and to question sources that I trusted. When I say my confidence in my beliefs was questioned, this is not to say that I have lost my confidence, but that I have gained the confidence to show weakness in my own ideas. I see strength in questioning myself and listening to others. I found that there is a benefit to not being so firm in my ideas and opinions that I close myself off to others' perspectives. We have something to learn from everyone, and if we all learn to question, we will find progress. Next time you have a brilliant idea that you're confident in, be confident enough to question yourself. Let others question. And most importantly, be confident enough to listen with an open mind. Thank you.
From your educational experience in India? Was that
in India?
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, it's interesting because I learned a ton in India, and that was really impactful. It's the only one I didn't use, but I learned a lot in India. The most impactful time for me was when one of our kids we got given we asked for a syllabus or something, and we just got given a book on the first day, and it was had the math work that they had been done, clearly used book, and we're like, okay, well that'll work, and so that's all we used. And then 2 weeks later, a little boy came up to us, can I have my book back? I'd like to study, please. And we were like, wow, okay. And the teacher had just given it to us and said that we could use it for the course. So that was pretty impactful, and that was, again, questioning, where things came from and, why they didn't have a syllabus was probably a bigger question that I needed to ask, and just different things like that, yeah.
What were the ages?
We had a broad spectrum of ages. There's some people who brought their little sister who was 3 or 4, and she just kind of sat there. And then there was one guy I think who was 12. So yeah. Yes.
Talk about your experience in Thailand and how you noticed that your host mom there had a lot to offer, even though she was what we would call uneducated.
Right.
And then you suggested, we need to allow space in order to hear her voice. And I'm wondering how you envision that, and then also if there's people in the U.S. as well that perhaps are educated in different ways,
yeah,
or have an education that we don't necessarily see, and how we can hear their voice.
Yeah, I think it's important not to make a huge difference between educated and uneducated, because if we just look at the hard data, then it's the people who've gone to school, but really there's others who know a lot in the area that they've worked in or lived in. So I think it's I see some trials where it's these are the uneducated population, this is educated, and a lot of the meetings we went to were they were saying that it was a big problem because people were so uneducated that it was hard to teach them, which doesn't really make sense to me because if they're uneducated then they can take it more. But I don't know. So I think it's important not to divide up those two groups, because I don't think you know about everything about someone's education per se if you don't know their story and where they come from. So. Yes.
Consider yourself as a leader. But how do you see yourself now as a leader?
I mean, I still consider myself as a leader, but just not I don't know, when I was referencing the examples of how I worked in school, throughout elementary and middle school and a little bit in high school too, it was more I try to lead things by just having people follow me and do stuff my way. And so I think that trying to be a leader now, it would be more I don't know, leading a group and talking with each other and sharing ideas and leading discussions like that, instead of leading I compare it to like, instead of giving a lecture, like leading a discussion on